All right, I think we have the waiting room clear for now. We'll keep an eye on it as more folks are joining. But I'm going to go ahead and get us started for this morning. So thank you to everyone. Welcome. And for our first legislative panel of the week, my name is Alicia Watley. I'm with Kentucky Youth Advocates, and we're so happy that you're here as part of Children's Advocacy Week, joining us this morning. So before we get started, I do want to take a minute and really just say thank you to our signature sponsor, Aetna Better Health of Kentucky, and also our strategist sponsors, Hager Foundation and Save the Children. And also a huge thank you to our many advocate and partner sponsors. Children's Advocacy Week and this event really would not be possible without your support. And for those watching, you guys can check out the full list of our sponsors on our website. So again, we are so excited to have you all here this morning. I'm going to do a quick introduction of who's here today and then turn it over to a facilitator for you all to hear a great conversation. We're joined this morning by two members of the Kentucky General Assembly who are among the youngest serving in their roles. And we're going to hear some insights on advice from them and how kind of their journey to becoming an elected official, how they prioritize issues that matter to them, and what other young advocates can be doing to get involved in this change-making process. So first with us this morning, we have Representative Peyton Griffee. Representative Griffee began serving in the Kentucky House in 2023 after winning a special election and retained his seat in 2024 November election to be back here in 2025, serving in the House of Representatives. Representative Griffee is a practicing attorney and he lives in Bullock County where he grew up. And we also have with us this morning Representative Rachel Roarx. Representative Roarx began serving in the Kentucky House in 2023 and was the youngest female member elected to that body when she won her race in November of 2022. So she is really passionate about her community and serving those from the south end of Louisville, where she grew up and lives today. So thank you both for joining us this morning. We're really happy to have you and for taking some time on day 21 of session. We know it's a really busy time for you all. So thank you all both for being here this morning. And before we jump into questions, I want to take just a moment to introduce the facilitator for our panel this morning. So with us, we have Savvy Hughes. Savvy is a directly impacted young person who serves as one of Kentucky Youth Advocates' housing policy ambassadors. She has a keen understanding of the intersection between policy and community impact, and she's really passionate about amplifying change through policy, advocacy, and taking action. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Savvy to get our conversation started this morning.
Hey, you all, I'm Savvy. I'm really excited to be here and to get the opportunity to facilitate this conversation with two really awesome representatives. Representative Griffee, Representative Roarx, y'all ready to roll with the punches and the questions?
Yeah, absolutely excited.
Yes, let's go.
Awesome. So I want to jump in with the first question. You are two of the youngest people in right now, and I know it was always really interesting for me growing up. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What were you like as a kid and or in your younger years that kind of led you to run for office and be the people that you are now? Representative Griffee, Representative Roarx, whichever one of you wants to jump in first.
Sure, I can take that. I don't want to. I'll go ahead and start that. So yeah, is a kid, to lead to this point, I think one of the things that I was always interested in and worked on was leadership skills. So I would like to say that I was a straight A student and that I was a great great at school and all those things, and that would not be the case. I was an okay student and got better over time. But the things that I was working on when I was a kid that I think benefited me down the road were leadership skills. So I was an athlete and I wasn't a very natural athlete. I had to really, really work to hone those skills. And I played football all the way up into college. And the thing that really that benefited for me was those leadership skills that I learned at a young age when you're dealing with a group like that, and that really benefited me down the road. I was somebody that was very interested in history and those kind of things when I was in school. And as I got older and began to take my studies more seriously, I think that has really benefited me down the road, especially when I got into college and law school. My early days, though, were defined by leadership lessons a lot of times on the ball field, and that I think has stuck with me and is something that I still benefit from playing a team sport, and not necessarily being the best natural athlete that was on there. It's somebody that had to really work to hone those skills and learn to lead. So I was involved with a lot, and I think that's still serving me well today.
I think it's funny that Rev Griffee used the sports example, because sometimes I say, with being a member of the minority party, an added layer of sports element there is that I played for my high school soccer team as our goalie, and I got really, we were not the best. And so we lost a lot. But at the same time, the importance of playing the game and being involved in the process and all the great benefits that I got from being involved in that sport and on that team has really benefited me. And I think that's just kind of one of my favorite things to kind of mention. Sometimes it's like, you got to learn to play the game, and you got to learn to how to interact regardless of whether or not you're the main person or if you're a member of the team or how that works. So I hope that translates to folks. But for me, at age 15, I actually experienced a loss of a family member due to domestic violence. And that left a really big impact on me, not feeling safe in my community, wanting to know what laws existed to help promote and keep people in intimate partner relationships safe. So I got to go to Frankfort. My sister spoke at Say My Name in October, and then met Representative Joni Jenkins, and she was carrying a lot of that domestic violence legislation at the time. Took it back to my high school, was working on making sure that people understood the power and control wheel, coercion, and tried to help my peers learn how to stay safe in relationships. But also was a member of Louisville Girls Leadership, which is a year-long leadership program founded by Marsha Weinstein to take sophomore girls and help them cultivate their leadership skills. So I was involved in a women in politics focus group, and Marsha actually asked our group of self-identified females whether or not we had ever thought about running for political office. And only one person in that small group raised her hand, and it was not me. And so I was like, whoa, like we're all super qualified. Why would we not actually see ourselves doing that? And I hadn't even thought about it. So from there on out, I kind of committed to myself that I was going to learn more about the political process, get involved in nonprofits, registering people to vote, and went to school for political science when I went to U of L and worked night shift at UPS. And then by the time I graduated, I was a legislative aide for Councilwoman Nicole George at Metro Council. And when you're a political science student, one of the best pieces of advice people had given me was to work on a campaign, because campaigns really do inform, the viability of a candidate, but also how you're going to function in the office role. And I have definitely seen the benefits of seeing both sides of that coin. Obviously, we do not campaign out of our offices, but it is an important aspect to know of like what your constituents have told you when before sending you here. So I often think back to my door knocks when I'm in this work of like, what did people tell me? So that's kind of my 10-year journey to getting elected at age 25. I was running for office at 24, and do hold the record for being the youngest woman ever elected to the body. I am not the youngest serving member, but I am the youngest female ever at the moment. And I do hope that someone comes along and breaks that record at age 24.
Those are some awesome experiences. Thanks so much for sharing that with us, Reps. And that actually leads me into my next question. So it sounds like you all had some pretty good experiences growing up that kind of really set you up for success in your roles and kind of dictated that pathway you would take through life. What are some of the advantages of being among the youngest elected representatives bring when you're working in Frankfort? And to follow up with that, what challenges have you faced and how are you navigating those?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think for me, the advantages a lot of times and the disadvantages are very similar, right? So on one hand, we're from a different generation, than what the average age is up here. And I think that brings a lot of unique perspective. For me, I'm a small business owner that less than 3 years ago started that small business. So I'm at the start of my career. We're part-time legislators. So We started the career. I got married about 3 years ago, bought my first house about 3 years ago. And so I have a unique experience than somebody that might be retired or has been in the workforce for 20, 30 years. So I think that's a real advantage is that we are from a new generation and it's starting point in our careers that's really beneficial. I think we understand things like social media, how that works, what's the functions, all those things of our modern society. I think the disadvantage a lot of time is we're from a different generation, so it's kind of it kind of goes hand in hand. And so it's no secret that we're from a generation that's not the average age up here, right? So a lot of times you have to bridge a divide. Somebody that grew up 40, 50 years ago or bought their first house 40, 50 years ago is going to have a totally unique perspective and different perspective on us about the market or getting a job or starting a business because those things were different then, and that's just the fact of the matter. So it's kind of the same answer for both those questions, if that makes sense for me.
I think that's a great answer and very clear. I mean, it really is. I think the benefit of being young is that we get to have younger voices in the body, which is just as important as having literally the entire age range. And that was maybe what inspired me to run at a younger age and know that I wanted to do it so early on was because I knew the importance of representing this decade between 20 and 30. That is an important decade. A lot is changing in your life, and it needs voice in this body, especially when we deal with topics like education and post-secondary. And being closer to that issue. I mean, there's things that have changed with dual credit since I was in college. Like, I think we need even younger voices to be at the table for some of these decisions to really speak to the experiences that they've had. So I knew that importance from the get-go. And I think the challenge can be there still can be some implicit bias, I think. So when I ran the first time, I made sure to, maybe not mention my age and just talk about the qualifications. Because at the end of the day, regardless of our age, we all have the same job to do. And I do find that people really have that respect for the office and the role that you hold, no matter if it's people who are our work colleagues or the public. So I think sometimes the thing that I've noticed sometimes is it's taken me 3 years to really kind of have this clarity is sometimes I actually find it easier to work with folks that are maybe 65 and older because you start to get into less representation, needing more voice, like for younger populations, for seniors. And so I've actually found a lot of commonality depending on the bigger the age range. I think we collaborate a little bit better. I think sometimes it can be harder when somebody does maybe have a child who's a similar age as you, and so they always look at you like you're the embodiment of their child. And sometimes people think that that's a really great thing, and sometimes I think people maybe don't have as much willingness to work in that capacity, but it just varies by the person. I think that's probably true no matter what. So it's an added thing that we do have to address. And I think Rep. Griffee does a great job of also, showing up to the table. He represents his people. He represents his county in an amazing way and shows up for them time and time again. And the thing that you get with a younger legislator that I think people kind of they do put them together, even though I'm sure this could be a fallacy of thinking at some point. We have a lot of good energy and we show up and we really love our community. And I think it shows. Especially, I would just like to give props to Rep. Griffee in that regard. He shows up and he does the work, and I really appreciate that.
But I appreciate you saying that. And I think you're 100% right about, with us being younger representatives up here, it's a lot of times I feel like easier for us to get to events, community events, and use our cell phones and call our mayors and see what's going on. And I think that's a real advantage that we both have. And I think that's good for everybody when us younger folks that are up here can do those things. So I appreciate you saying that.
Oh yeah, and you reminded me of one more thing that I think is a really important piece is sometimes it's a little easier. I feel that it's a little easier for me to ask questions because people expect me to be learning and to want to educate and kind of take you under their wing. But we have a lot of new members in general of all age ranges. And the thing that I've seen more than age is just when you have new people coming into a body, it doesn't matter what your background is. This is a new animal to tackle. And there has had to be a lot more training just to get new people updated on the process, the legislative process, and how our body functions. So it's a little bit easier, in my opinion, to be able to be the one to ask a lot of questions. And it's something that I hope I don't lose over the years, is to show up and be the one asking questions, because a lot of times people are thinking the thing, they're just afraid to say it.
I love that. And I think you all and several other of our newer legislators do bring a certain type of energy that's really resonating a lot with our youth today, right? That may not quite yet be ready to jump into the world of politics, or people who are just generally interested. And so those experiences and these things that you are learning, um, out of those things that you're learning and out of the experience, your own experiences growing up, what are some of your priorities in Frankfort, especially those that are related to kids and families, and just how have these own experiences that you all have faced really shaped those?
Yeah, I think for me, so I have Bullitt and Hardin County, which are two of the fastest growing counties in the state of Kentucky. Bullitt County, especially, we are seeing the average age of the people that are moving and living in Bullitt County is actually trending younger, which is a great sign for the health of the community. So we are having lots and lots of growth. We are now at about 84,000 people. I think we will be, by the next census, I would be shocked if we're not over 100,000 people in Bullitt County. And so I feel like, I am representative of a lot of those folks that are moving to Bullitt County. I'm a lifelong Bullitt Countyan, but I have a lot in common with the folks that are moving out here. Most of them are under 40. A lot of them are recently married or recently had a child. A lot of them are trying to start a business in our community. And so what I've kind of been laser focused on up here is legislation that I can file or support that makes it easier to own a home, start a business, keep tax liability down. Those are kind of the things that I'm naturally inclined to support and want to foster. And I think that's good for our children, good for our young folks. And then as you get kind of, out of high school, out of college, and you're looking for that first home, I want to be representing a county that welcomes those people into Bullitt and Hardin County. So that's one thing I've really been focused on. I'm also, if you look at a lot of the legislation that I've filed, so I'm an Army reservist, still serve in the Army Reserve, and I actually represent Fort Knox. So I have about 3 precincts. I just have a little bit of Hardin County. The bulk of that is the military installation at Fort Knox. And so I have been very focused on keeping veterans here, keeping them in the district. Most of them have families, a lot of times younger families, and wanting them to make it easier and attractive to stay in the state of Kentucky when they're done with their service at Fort Knox. So instead of going back to maybe wherever they're from, or, a different military installation that they like, that they'll say, you know what, this is a great place to live and raise a family, maybe start a business or stay retired, and I want to stay here. So those are the things that I've been focused on that I think, hopefully will benefit families that are looking to live here in Kentucky.
There we go. Gonna get off mute there. I think for me, I do a lot of bills around worker protections, and I talk a lot about supporting our labor unions and apprenticeships, because a lot of times I think with really good quality healthcare, affordable wages, cost of living is always on top of our minds. And I think for some of the best pieces of policy that we can do is really helping to make sure that people have what they need to have a good quality of life. And also, I represent the city of Louisville, mostly the South End, as it was said. And it's a very working class neighborhood. It's very diverse, not just politically, but also very diverse socioeconomically and ethnically, religiously. I mean, it's everything in one place. And trying to make sure that our laws really accommodate a welcoming community to where people do have choice at their local level and can participate is really important to me. But I talk a lot about the benefits of making sure that we can recruit and retain our workers, Yes, keep them living in our community. The thing I love about my district is we have such a diverse array of housing types and architecture. It's where sometimes I think that I should have became a realtor, because I just love my district so much and everything that it has to offer. Um, and just making sure that people can have that good quality of place, and good quality of life for them and their families. And I think that is the really unique piece about the experiences that we bring to the table. Is I also got married 4 years ago, and getting married and being able to afford a house is a really big deal. And so first time home buyer tax credit is something that I'm always happy to co-sponsor, because I know the benefit of um, getting to work at UPS and graduating debt free, and what that then allowed me and my husband to do financially. It's huge. I didn't have to deal with student loan debt, and I was able to kind of get a lot of those milestones done sooner. And I want that for other people too. So I love getting to talk kind of about all those intricacies of our community that help people really thrive.
That's awesome. And as a young person and a recent first-time home buyer myself, I love those priorities. And I think it really aligns with the need. Moving into that, KYA is an organization that works to engage youth like me in the change-making process and to build skills to become effective advocates on issues that they care about. What advice do you all have for young people learning about this work or looking for ways to get involved?
Yeah, I think for me, personally, the things that getting involved is the first step, right? If you're looking for ways to get involved, a lot of times taking that next step, you might see an organization that you agree with or an issue that you want to lobby for or push for. And a lot of times it's hard to say yes and kind of get to that next step, kind of to actually do it. So for me, for example, when I got out of law school, I was looking for ways to get involved politically, and I started a Young Republicans organization, or if you're on the other side, a Young Democrats, association. I think that's a great way to get involved and actually take that step. And that was really, really rewarding for me because I cared about issues, I cared about politics, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to. Sometimes you just got to start your own thing and do your own thing so that you can have a seat at the table and have a voice. What I always tell young people, and had a great conversation about a week ago with some folks from my alma mater, Georgetown College here in the state. And they said, "What was a piece of advice that you would give?" I always say yes to everything, unless it's illegal. But say yes to everything that you can. Get involved where you can. I've never regretted taking a risk on something. And some people I know are more risk adverse than others. But every time that I have gotten out of my comfort zone and I've cared about something enough to jump and take that next step, whether it's starting a political organization, like I mentioned, starting a business, joining the Army Reserve, all of those things were you could consider risky. You could consider, not the norm, but I've never regretted doing those things and saying yes to those things. So I would encourage you, if you've got interest in getting involved, get involved with your local, get involved with local. It doesn't even have to be politics, but your local political party or your local issue that you're advocating. And I think when you actually say yes, you feel a lot better than just, being at home mad about stuff on social media or what have you, when you're actually hands-on and I always appreciate, I've had some young people that have been on other sides of issues than I'm on, and they've come and met with me in my office and they look at me face to face and explain to me why they're for or against something. And I really appreciate that. And I appreciate when people are willing to do that face to face and put some skin in the game, so to speak.
Great advice. Particularly loved. Don't do anything illegal. What a great disclaimer. I would really like to see the recording of that with my reaction later. It's going to make me really happy. But I always say, a lot of us at this point in time, you're probably on this call because you have a particular passion. And I think typically people who are not engaged and involved haven't had a point yet where they've been personally impacted by the work that we do here to where they haven't been particularly moved yet to get involved. And I think when you find the thing that has impacted your life or that you have become particularly passionate about for a certain reason, it becomes to the point of like where you just really want to get involved and act. And I would imagine, I'll speak for myself, but I would imagine a lot of you probably feel this way too, where you're doing a lot of things and burnout is such a real problem at this point in our lives where we're always competing against all the different priorities in our life. And I spent the past decade of my life really overflowing my plate. My husband likes to say that I'm the type of person who will fill up her plate. You'll think it can't have anything more on it, and I'll add one more thing. And so I've been having to do the opposite of like getting things off my plate so that I can say yes to the right things. And it feels unnatural and it feels really hard and really scary. So I'm hopefully practicing that more now than I ever have. But I think just some pieces of advice, local nonprofits are a really great way to get involved. They often need people who, one, have expertise, but at the same time, just have time to really dive into boards. So I became a very young board member of that same organization I mentioned earlier, Louisville Girls Leadership. I think I was like the youngest board member. I was 19 when I joined the board, but I wanted the students in the program to see what it was like to kind of be in the hustle period of life. Of like, I knew when I wanted to run for office one day, what does it look like in between? So I really wanted to model that, and I joined that board, and it was some of the best learning I could have had. And I've been able to take those experiences and apply them to the little Loom House board that I've been the board president of in the past, and now the Happy Birthday Circle. So a lot of board service in my regard, which has allowed me to give back to causes I care about, and also helped me grow my skills and understandings of how those things work, and has been really vital for my work here in the nonprofit caucus as well. So I think just some like pro tips: don't burn a bridge. Always reach out to your elected officials and let them know that you're a constituent. Please, put your contact information and let them know where you live. It's the first thing I look at when an email comes in. And I think, and also ask how you can help them. I think that's a really great way of getting involved. And to show up to something that an initiative that they're running, or they're having a volunteer day, like show up and participate and be of assistance. It can be a really great way to get to learn about them more, but also hear what they're working on and also have your opinions heard more. The humanization piece is real, and I would definitely recommend that you continue to do that regardless of if you're disagreeing or not. But don't burn a bridge. All of us show up to work thinking that we're going to do the right thing today. We don't show up thinking that we're going to do the wrong thing. So I would not recommend sending an email that's blaming someone for something. Really try to find that common ground and and hear them out, because you might love one thing that somebody does and hate another, but it's really important to form coalitions and work with people and not just write them off. So those are some of my kind of pro tips that I've learned over the years, and also experience from working behind the desk and filtering things that have come in. And hope that you all, if you ever need anything, I keep my cell phone on the LRC website. So just a text away, if you ever have any questions or want to know something or get coffee, thank you for stepping up to be involved, and we appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for those pro tips, Representative Griffee and Representative Roarx. Those are definitely going on the top of my bulletin board, especially say yes to everything unless it's illegal. I think that is all the questions that we have for now, unless some folks have questions in the chat. If not, I'm going to turn it back over to Alicia, and we will get it rolling.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Abby. We really appreciate you taking some time to be here and help facilitate this conversation. And to Representatives Griffee and Roarx, thank you all again so much for your time this morning. I know you have busy days. And Representative Griffee, as a fellow Georgetown College graduate, I always appreciate, somebody from Georgetown being in this space and doing the good work. So thank you for being here this morning. I am going to now turn it over to my colleague, Jamie, who is going to close us out for the day and really remind you all about what else is coming up this week as part of Children's Advocacy Week.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's definitely refreshing to hear a fresh take on the current session and what served as your inspiration for the work that you all do. There were so many great pro tips, but the biggest theme that I took away was to get involved and, of course, say yes to everything as long as it's not illegal. But all of these were great messages. So thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you, Savvy, and a big thank you to our sponsors as well. Now on to some call updates. I hope that you hang in there with us today at noon. We will be launching our next event. This event is a legislator conversation about prioritizing kids during session. All right, and I'm going to provide the link so that you can hop on over. But we will also, well, during that event, we'll have Senator Cassie Chambers Armstrong and Representative Robert Duvall on to discuss pending legislation and explore strategies to prioritize children during these final days of session. This event will focus on actionable steps that you can take to implement policy change. And then, of course, tomorrow is Children's Advocacy Day at the Capitol. So we hope to see everyone there. The rally is at 11 a.m. There are a few things I want everyone to be aware of. The first one is make sure if you're 18 and over, you have an ID to be able to get into the Capitol. The second is to pay close attention to the weather. It looks like there are going to be some scattered showers, some wind advisories. So just be careful and make sure that you bring anything that you need to make sure that you get through the day as comfortably as possible. All right. Of course, at the rally or following the rally, we'll have meetings going with legislators, opportunities for you to connect with one another, and there will be tons of youth in the building. And I just really can't wait to raise our voices for Kentucky kids along each and every one of you. So thank you all.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.